Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about people not staying in their own lanes, and I'm totally fine with this, by the way, so I'm not saying in a derogatory way at all, but I get like so many Ask Dr. A emails, message requests from all my different socials, LinkedIn, what do you think about this? What would you do about this? And I get this question actually fairly commonly, so I've made a few other videos that are related, but I want to specifically tackle the question, should a periodontist hire an orthodontist to do aligners in their practice to prep for implants? So let's talk about that. I did get one email today asking about this, but I've had this email many times. So I thought I'd make a specific video just to address the periodontist out there who are thinking about doing this. And I actually want this to be a bit of a rude awakening video for the orthodontists out there in the community who think what they're doing is what their dentists need. Perhaps they are only going to the general dentist to network and to look for referrals, but you'd be surprised how many specialists out there are doing other kinds of specialty work, okay? So way back when, I have a periodontist friend in California who's an amazing periodontist. I'm not going to call anyone's name out, but nothing negative to say. And we had this conversation and he said, I would never do ortho. I need to stay in my lane. That is the job of the orthodontist, And I said, what about implants? What do you think about, GPs doing implants? He's against it. But, that's for circa 1990. We are now in the 2020s and things have changed, right? So with the advent of direct-to-consumer aligners and everything, consumers are way more aware, other specialists are way more aware of what's out there, what's possible, and not everything is a 2-year treatment plan. So if you are an orthodontist and everything to you is a 2-year treatment plan and you're never giving options, alternatives, shortened treatments, problem-centered treatment plans where we're only tackling that one section, like for example, let's say there's a patient, let's say lower left 6 or number 19 is a little bit tipped because patient was missing the lower left E, or number 20 and it kind of tipped over, and now we want to upright it so that we can do an implant in the number 20 spot. Hopefully I said that right. Lower left E. Okay, hypothetical situation. Usually what happens, patient goes to the general dentist for a checkup. General dentist mentions this. General dentist says, hey, we need to send you to the orthodontist, talk about getting this uprighted. We need to send you to the periodontist or the oral surgeon, talk about throwing an implant in. And once that's all done, then I'll go ahead and restore it. So that's 3 different dentists working on it. Well, what's happening now is that a lot of periodontists are aggressively, and I see a lot of marketing plans aggressively bringing the implant patients directly in B2B instead of, going through the general dentist. So they're bypassing, they're going straight to the periodontist. Periodontist is not only uprighting the tooth, they're also dropping the implant and they're restoring the implant. They're doing all 3 dentists work in one, which is great. I mean, that's a nice, right there, it's a $10,000 to $15,000 treatment plan at least, if not 20. I don't know how much they're charging, but I know in a general dentist office that did all that, it would be at least 10 to 12. So I'm assuming it's a $15,000 to $20,000 treatment plan. Wow, that's a lot of revenue. And what's happening is a lot of the periodontists are saying, hey, I'm bypassing the orthodontist in my community because honestly, everything's a 2-year treatment plan, takes too long, and the whole thing falls apart when the orthodontist gets involved. It's not that hard. I'm happy to learn to do it, and then I'll just do it my way, what I want to do, to the point where I need the roots, to the point where I need the bite to finish the case. So yeah, like I said, rude awakening for the GPs out there, rude awakening for the orthodontists out there. People are taking your work because you're not collaborating properly. So anyways, okay. So now that we got that out of the way, so I'm not saying I promote it. I'm not saying I don't promote it. I'm saying it's a thing, it's happening, and it's going to keep happening unless people change their ways. So, if it's happening in your community and you're an orthodontist, you should look hard and firm at yourself and how you do things and how you collaborate with all your specialists, not just your GPs, not just your pediatric dentists. You need to collaborate with your periodontist as well and your prosthodontist, because I definitely have a lot of perio and a lot of proths doing ortho and they're contacting me. So you know what? I don't have a problem working with them. They know just as much, if not more, than most of the GPs I work with. So they do amazing work. So let's talk about things, though, red flags. I mean, it sounds all fine and dandy, and I think that there's 2 different opportunities, right? So let's say you're the periodontist, you want to do this and you want to teach yourself. I'm totally fine with that. Teach yourself, We've got tons of videos that are online, over 7,000 videos. Clearly, a lot of you are watching them. And if you want help with a specific case, we're glad to help you with that. There's small fees for that. You can go to our website, straightsmilesolutions.com, click on the services page. You can get help with a case. You can get help with all your cases, whatever you need, it's there for you, okay? Where it gets a lot more complicated is these periodontists who are thinking about bringing in an orthodontist to do it for them. Now you actually in a more sticky situation than the GPs who are thinking about bringing ortho in. Every time this happens, I've never seen an office where it happened well. It's always a SHIT show. Like it falls apart. I'm sure it's possible for it to happen well. I just don't hear the stories, okay? It's because there's so many things that can go wrong. And I'm sorry, but us orthodontists think very differently than a periodontist, and you're both specialists, right? So obviously you're going to need an attorney who specializes in dentistry things. That sounds terrible, but there's plenty of them out there. I know some of them, that knows dentistry. There's a lot of attorneys out there that either keep a dentist on staff. I've definitely been questioned by a lot of attorneys. I help them out, if they have questions. Or maybe they went to dental school and they're also an attorney. So there's a lot of them out there, or there's attorneys out there that only do dentistry. So you got to bring one of those on so that they understand all the nuances of the contract, who's responsible for what. I mean, you got to figure, okay, let's say you have a patient, like I mentioned, this is going to be uprighting number 19, lower left 6, right? Maybe you're trying to do Invisalign comprehensive, maybe you're trying to use white label aligners, but ultimately that's fine. There's no reason the orthodontist can't do this in your office. I mean, there's so many things you have to consider. First of all, is your orthodontist going to be a 1099 or a W-2, right? Who's paying for the supplies, Are you only using Invisalign? Are you doing Invisalign and white label aligners? I think that's a smart idea because it's going to be a heck of a lot cheaper if you're just paying per aligner than doing a whole set, since probably a lot of your cases aren't going to be comprehensive. They're just going to be problem-focused dentistry. You can totally do that with Invisalign. It's just significantly more expensive because their pricing isn't that much less for a single arch versus a dual arch. It's much, much more. And I actually am going to be publishing a really cool breakdown where I just went through all the Invisalign fees, especially in the US, Canada, and Australia. So you can see what the price per aligner is. And it is significantly more expensive than what you can get out there, So I think definitely considering white label is the way to go. If you want to learn more about white label, please watch my playlist on white label to access that. You can go to my YouTube channel, Straightsmile Solutions, put in the search bar or at the little magnifying glass, or scroll down even on the homepage of my own YouTube channel, and you'll see more towards the bottom a playlist on white label aligners. Right now, the going rate, the cheapest in the US is $20 per aligner. You don't have to have any type of equipment or anything. It just gets mailed to you. It just doesn't come in fancy packaging. It's not branded, okay? Little Ziploc bags. But they work just as well. You're going to pay per aligner, no revisions, no refinements included. If you want revisions and refinements included, first of all, that means you're not doing things right. If that's an issue, it means you're either not doing your treatment planning right, or you're not doing your accountability loop right, or both, because refinement should be a one-off, not a normal occurrence, okay? So we won't get into that. If you want to learn more about that, you can search by keyword within my channel for refinements, and I've got tons of videos on that, or on accountability loop, virtual check-ins, things like that. So again, back to our particular hypothetical situation, we talked about the whole 1099 versus W-2, who pays the lab fee, when is the lab fee being pulled out? The problem is, and how is the dentist or the orthodontist being compensated for the ortho? First of all, I would be really firm that anything that's going on in that office, I would make the specialist your W-2, so that way you can have some control over what supplies they use, what equipment they use, and the treatment plans. And I would have all the treatment plans run by you, like before they can approve them. I would also do them under your own account, okay? You take the Invisalign class, the account is under your name. These are your patients. That's what you have to do in order to do the W-2. If you're doing it under the specialist, the orthodontist account is their patients, okay? So you don't want them doing anything that you personally don't agree with. You don't want them doing anything that you personally can't take over. So I think I'd want to see all the treatment plans ahead of time before they got approved. Even if they're the specialist, you still want to see them, because if you see something that jumps out to you or you don't like, then it's good to know. That way, if they up and go, the treatment plans are already there. All you got to do is refine against that old treatment plan. An occasional one-off can come. And certainly you can build into the exit clause something where, perhaps they can come in and help with cases as needed for an additional fee. But I mean, all these things you have to really keep into account. Now, how you pay the doctor, most orthodontists are going to try to ask for their production up front, especially if you're a heavy cash practice, but you don't want to do that. You want to compensate them on the end. So I normally recommend the third, or even 25, 50, 25 payment method. So third is they get third of the collections up front. They get a third of the collections throughout the treatment, deposited either at a midpoint situation or deposited monthly in small little drips and drops. It is complicated to calculate. And then the other third will be once the patient has signed off, once the owner doctor, who is the periodontist, is satisfied with the position of the tooth and the case is closed, final records are taken, patient has signed off, owner doctor has signed off, everybody signed off, you get your remaining third. I actually even like the idea of doing, like I said, 25, 50, 25, which is a 25% collections at the front end. Okay, let me recycle back on that. I know I'm saying 25, 50, 25, but I'm saying assuming that you are on 33% or 40% collections, okay, as your W-2, I think 33% collections or even 28% collections is fair. Assuming if you're splitting the lab fee up front, now that's going to be the issue. If you're splitting the lab fee up front, lab fee is $1,900, $1,500. The specialist, the orthodontist, is going to be in the negative, but not unlike even on any Invisalign case, the owner doctor's in the negative. So they're actually going to owe money up front if they don't stick with the practice, if they don't finish the case. So, it's a little bit wishy-washy. I mean, certainly you can have the owner doctor pay the whole lab fee, and then the orthodontist maybe gets 20 to 22 to 23 to 24% collections. And of that collections, we're going to do 25, 50, 25. I do not have a calculator with me, so I'm going to try to do this in my head. But I mean, you get the idea. Let's say the case was $5,000, okay, for the ortho. And let's say Specialist is getting 20%. So 20% of 5,000 is $1,000. That is the production. Let's say we do production and not collections. That is the production that the orthodontist is going to get on the case, but orthodontist is also not paying any lab fee. Okay. So that's just cash. It's gravy just for doing a treatment plan and supervising the assistants. That's about it. It's not that hard selling the case, right? So owner doctor gets $4,000, but pays almost a $2,000 lab fee. Okay. And if you're a W-2, then I'm assuming owner doctor is also paying for the staff, the composite, the supplies, everything like that. So ultimately, owner doctor is taking home about $1,000 in profit on the case, as well as the treating orthodontist taking $1,000. So that sounds fair to me. Okay. So I like that idea. 20% collections on the case. Of that 20%, we're going 25%, 50, 25%. So then if that is $1,000 that the orthodontist gets throughout the lifetime of the case, then they don't pay any lab fee. That way they're not going to be in the negative at the start, and they're incentivized to do the start. Then if they're getting 25, 50, 25, then that is a breakdown. 25% of $1,000 is $250. So at the start, they're going to get a nice $250 compensation for selling that case and delivering that case. Boom. Easy, right? Then let's say the case, over the lifetime of the case, let's say we're estimating it to be 18 months or whatever. We're either going to pay monthly drips and drops, so the remaining 50%, that's $500 over, say 10 months. You can figure that out. Every visit you're going to get $20, $30, $40 or something like that, or every month, however you want to do it. And then at the finish, you give the other 25%. Or you can make it even easier. You can go 50-50, so that they are going to get $500 for the start and the treatment plan. Makes it very, very easy. And then when everyone signed off, all three doctors, the other $500 comes in because you finish the case. That actually is probably significantly easier unless you have a good accounting department to calculate the monthlies. But I mean, either way, that's, I think, the smoothest way to do it in these situations. And like I said, show that every case, the owner periodontist needs to see the treatment plan just to make sure they're comfortable with it, and that the associate orthodontist is not going to get his other 50% until the case is signed off, final records are taken, and everyone's satisfied. So if the orthodontist ups and leaves throughout the treatment, you still have a really good treatment plan, and failing anything totally crazy from happening, which rarely does but occasionally does, and you can always consult on another orthodontist for that, you can always just repair the additional refinements with the existing, hopefully with optimized treatment plan. So there's really no loss in this situation, especially if it's all ortho. Now, if they're trying to do cantilevers, mouse traps, and braces, that's a whole different story. I don't recommend it. So you want to make sure that you're hiring an orthodontist who's confident enough with their skills with aligners, Invisalign, and white label aligners. Everything can be done with these type of aligners. Sometimes it's not as efficient, sometimes it's more efficient, but not all new grad orthodontists are confident like this. Like, I work with a lot of new grad orthodontists who know very little about aligner mechanics because they don't learn it in school. I'm not sure which schools are teaching it, which aren't. But certainly I would want to see some of their treatment plans before I brought them on and make sure they're not going to be putting anything fixed on. Everything has to be done with removable appliances. So it's something that you could easily take over. Also, there's significantly less to almost no emergencies when you do removable appliances. When you start bringing in fixed appliances, the emergencies go up exponentially. And, you know, if your orthodontist and their team is not there, and I don't know if their team is someone they're bringing in, of course, if they're bringing in their own team, that's a whole different situation with payments. Than if you are providing the team. But if you are only doing aligner orthodontics and removables, you can use a GP team. It's not that hard. They can be trained up in a day. If you're doing fixed, you need a specialized orthodontic team, which is going to be significantly more difficult to find staff and pay. So I would stick with all removables. But anyways, yeah, that's my suggestion. Some of the red flags. This is what I would do if you really want to bring an orthodontist in. It is nice because it separates the things. Obviously, you want to be doing the billing, the collecting, and paying the lab fee and just paying that orthodontist. That way, there's no stress. If they up and leave, they're still your patients. You can stick with those original treatment plans to finish the case. And you don't have to pay them their remaining, however you're going to do it, 50% of the 20%, which is $500 at the end of the case. So it's not like you're really losing money on the case, because the hardest part of the case, first of all, is selling it, delivering it, doing the IPR. And so that's another thing. Let's talk about if we are doing the 50-50 rule on the 20%, I would perhaps define the initial 50 at the start. You need to define that in the contract. I would define it, and that's how it always was for me, as treatment plan is done, patient has signed the treatment plan, patient has signed the conformed consent, attachments have been placed, aligners have been delivered, and all IPR has been completed. That's a very, very important part. All IPR has been completed, because that is time consuming. And although you could totally do it, it's a great idea to have that done. Now, if they stage the IPR later in the treatment plan, well, then that's their problem, you know? So you want to look at the IPR, see when it's staged, and when it's done is when they get paid. They can say, hey, I finished the IPR here. Everything has been delivered, you know? The hard part is all done at that point. They've done the IPR, they put the attachments on, they delivered the appliance, they did the take-home care instructions, they've done the treatment plan. So everything else should be smooth sailing, assuming that you have accountability loop. I do strongly recommend, if you're going to do this, and this is going to be my last point, and then I'm going to let it go. I strongly recommend that you hire an outsourced. I mean, you can use Invisalign Virtual, but you can't use it with your white label or any other aligner company. I would do in-hand dental or dental monitoring, and one of these other ones. In-hand's probably my favorite because it is very, very low cost. $140 a month for up to 30 patients. That's about a cup of, you know, it's a small latte, child-sized latte every day. I mean, to be able to get virtual check-ins on every patient, because having that accountability loop that all doctors can see as they're coming in is critical, because something was crazy happening. You could click on every month and you could see what was going on with your patients. First of all, it's an incredible educational tool, especially if all your patients are signing social media releases or even just educational content releases, because you can use this to educate other doctors, other team members, or even use for your social media. You can crop out eyes, but just to show the progression of what it looks like for different cases. There is nothing more powerful in terms of marketing than your own patients. And if you aren't leveraging your amazing work in your own social media, you're doing things wrong, because that is the best marketing. And to be really honest, you don't even have to hire someone to do it. You can use something like Fiverr. I have a ton of videos on how to use Fiverr for creating infographics, small TikTok videos, small YouTube videos, showing your cool cases. You don't have to have any creative energy. I even have ones that I've already vetted and feel very comfortable with. I'm glad to refer you to the ones I use, who do really, really good work. They're very responsive. You know, $5, $10 for an infographic. You just throw it up on your Instagram. You don't have to make it into an ad. You just throw up on your Instagram, You can also talk about it if you feel comfortable talking about it. Otherwise, you can write the script and have someone from Fiverr talk about it and create a nice little cool video, showcasing your cases. You know, you want someone to make the video for you, it's maybe $20 to $50. If you're just making the infographic and you're talking about yourself on YouTube, it's just the cost for the infographic, which is $5 to $10. And you can see all my videos on my YouTube, the vast majority, some of them I made myself in terms of the graphics. You can kind of tell, and some you can tell I hired somebody, $5 to $10 a pop. I make my own content. Occasionally, if I have something pretty slick and cool, I'll have someone do a video for me. But that does add up in prices. And obviously, I'm not monetizing my site that much. So, only reason I'm doing all this is honestly to develop an amazing thumbprint out there so that people are doing good orthodontics, because I'm so tired of seeing crappy orthodontics. If y'all gonna do it right. And so at least I'm teaching you really good orthodontics and it's out there. Also, there's so many countries that are out there that have like very little access to good care. So now it's a way that they can get the education in those countries. I have doctors from Nigeria and Bulgaria and all over Philippines and all over the world that watch my videos to try to make their own practices better. And I'm super glad. I know you can't afford my services because the US dollar is pretty strong right now. But hey, if I can help you the best I can, then that's how I can do it. And I want to help you. So send me your questions. Nothing makes me more upset than seeing patients that are treated substandard in other countries. Let's treat them all really, really well and make healthy and happy smiles and save teeth for life and get better airways, better, beautiful smiles, better function, everything like that. Anyways. All right, so hopefully to that periodontist who reached out to me yesterday, this is a helpful video, but I've had many of you reach out, so this is for all the periodontists out there. All right, thanks.